How's it going, everyone? It's Jamie here with the Voluntaryist comic project. So I wanted to get your opinion on something that's really critical for me in going forward with the comic series. And it's extremely important that I get feedback on this issue because it can really determine the nature of how the comic or future artwork with the comic rolls out. And as you've seen in the past, I've used Indiegogo.com as the primary funding platform, and that's kind of worked pretty well overall because it brings everybody around a certain issue or a certain kind of like cause, a fundraising goal, and that really helps get people on board and see clearly what's going to be made. But I'm starting to get to a point where this could go in another direction where there is a rolling, ongoing basis of artwork being created. It could be single comic pages. It could be, you know, different types of art pieces that are made publicly available or publicly available for print through one of the third-party vendors that I use. And if I were to switch to that format where it's a rolling, ongoing support, I'd be using Patreon. And if you haven't heard of it, Patreon is found at patreon.com. Patreon.com. And that format allows you to make a monthly contribution, and it goes on a rolling ongoing basis, so it's automatically deducted from whatever funding source you use. But you can cancel that at any time that you need. So it's not some super crazy long commitment or some sort of like crazy contractual thing. It's very convenient to use in that you can send your support, you can pledge what you can, and if there is an issue, you can always cancel, and then you don't have that rolling ongoing basis. And the reason why I'm considering that is because not only can we get funding that continues rolling out content on a regular basis instead of waiting for an opportunity to do a whole campaign and all that fun stuff that goes along with it and all the perks and so on and so forth, but using Patreon allows people to connect a lot quicker with the content, because instead of having to wait to ship stuff out, instead of having to wait to roll out the project, I'm able to create pieces on possibly a monthly or bi-monthly basis and have them just go into public release until they get completed. And I think that could be really cool, especially for special pieces, maybe artwork or posters, possibly other types of merchandise that can be introduced, and so on and so forth. It's not that I wouldn't, ever use Indiegogo again, potentially, if there's a bigger thing to be done. But I feel like Patreon could be an opportunity to push the comic forward on a rolling basis and have people excited all the time with a current update, instead of having to wait for months and months and months for a new thing to roll out. And if you haven't checked out the website before, check out their FAQ, their frequently asked questions. They're pretty straightforward there as far as how the process works. And what I really like is that you can contribute on a very limited basis. For example, maybe only do $1 a month, or maybe $5 a month, and that could be something that is small in terms of maybe your whole paycheck or whatever funding source you have, but can make a big impact with others. When there's that regular contribution support to the comic, it gives an opportunity that people can have the content constantly rolling. So it's one of those things that I've been weighing for a while and just thinking about, trying to see what would end up being the most productive for getting out comic content. And there also might be some incentives there too, because Patreon's the deductible rates are pretty competitive. That is, what the business requires in terms of percentage of payment in order to use their service. So that's another potential savings that could lead to more content, of course, being produced. It's a tough call for me to make without getting you to say something back and to give me some feedback about this. Without you and your help in making this happen, this would just never exist. It just takes so much time and so much effort, and even with all the stuff that I've done on my own and with other artists and with other amazing people who have helped, by doing cosplay, Christy, it just takes so much time to get to that point because there's so many dynamic aspects to comic publishing. I could do a whole series, on that, but the short of it is that there's a lot involved, and if you want something that's constantly getting updated and fresh, you kind of need that rolling funding basis to keep the artists going, and to keep the production going, and to send out little perks and things like that. So again, take a look at Patreon, take a look at other types of comics that, or comic creators who have posted on there, see what types of perks they have. If this is something that interests you and you're legitimately looking to help make it happen and think that could be a way to keep the comic series rolling at a faster pace, please just let me know. Send me a message on Facebook. The page is facebook.com/volcomics. My email is Mr. Period, that's a dot, voluntary@gmail.com, mr.voluntary@gmail.com. Send me an email there. I really just want to find a direction, especially these next couple of months, to think about how the comic series can be pushed forward, but on a more regular basis, instead of having to wait several months, do the campaign, wait for the funding to come in, all that kind of stuff, then go to the artists and things like that. It may be a little bit easier to have a kind of a monthly, regular, ongoing thing where I can just say, okay, boom, boom, let's work with the artist, let's get this rolling, and then constantly having output of whatever that may end up being. Maybe it's, a page a month, or 2 pages a month, or a page and an art piece, and a certain level of sponsors, you get like a printed thing, or you get stickers or another type of perk that comes along with it. Maybe potentially the end comic, signed comic, kind of like things that you've seen on Indiegogo, but just on a different kind of basis, and on a way that helps to make sure that there's fresh stuff coming out every month. And to me, I just see that as the big advantage. If you have a series and there's always something coming up and out, you have more opportunity for people to hear about it, read about it, make it newsworthy, and so on and so forth. And I want to make this very clear for those of you who have been following since the beginning. The mission here is always still liberty. Liberty directly addressed through the comic. And of course it's in a fun way. Of course there's superheroes, action, crazy stuff like zombies, and there'll be other things too that I have in store. For example, the Bureau bats, but that's another thing. But to get to that point where other people are reading about it, and other people outside of maybe the libertarian sphere are checking it out, I think there needs to be more consistent or more consistency in output. And I think it's kind of at that point now. I think there's enough content and background information that people can kind of decide here and say, wow, is this something that's really cool that I think want to grow? Or maybe it's like, something that you feel maybe we need to do another single issue or bigger issue and do that as a big fundraiser thing. And then there's enough to consider, doing something on a rolling basis. So please, if you have any thoughts, especially if you've supported in the past among one of the 3 campaigns, there's been a lot of learning experiences along the way about how to do things right and how to get people to join in and understand what this is really all about, because it can be a little confusing at first to be like, wait, what? Liberty Comics? What is that? How do you present that? How do you get libertarian stuff in a comic? There's a way, and you can of course download these both now for free online, and that's a big part of it too. It's the aspect that I don't want this creative content to be locked up in production for so long. I don't want it to have to wait to put everything together. I want to be able to get to a point where it can be posted on a regular basis, and get people excited and continually excited about the updates, because I'm always excited about doing this, and whatever I can try to design, if I try to do a little logo or backstory tweak, or if hire out artists to do little tweaks or little pieces, whether it's like chibi characters or single pages or posters, whatever. I really think it's important to get to that point where it's just something that has that ongoing excitement that builds around it and gets people involved, and of course ultimately leads people to either share the concept of liberty, and or have other people discover these terms from seeing others with the content. And another thing down the road too, tying this all together, is I've been trying to get to a point where I could feel comfortable going to some form of a comic convention. There's tons in my area, but I'd love to get to some point where I have enough content and enough merch or whatever that I can actually have a table and people be like, oh, what's this? And be there and have 10,000 people come by potentially, and even if they just learn of the word voluntarist or voluntarism, that's enough to plant a seed and get people alerted to the fact that liberty does permeate all forms of culture. And, comics just happens to be one of them. And if you're with me on this, then comics is one of your favorite mediums for fun and culture and superheroes too. So please, again, message me here, message me on Facebook, message me the email for the most likely, quickest response, because I have that synced with my phone. So mr.voluntary@gmail.com. All right, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to all this, and I hope you have a great day.